everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty, episode number 155. What did you pop your eyes like? What are you doing?
I
Trying
always do.
exercising your eyes so when I
Yeah.
say something that you'll disagree with, you will roll your eyes. Okay, and this is, as I said, episode 155, September the 13th, Friday the 13th, 2024. And today we're going to talk about rulers because from one of our subscribers, they suggested that we should do that. So we will. But first, let's take a look at what I've been creating. Walter's still working on a shirt, but he's going to a sew day tomorrow. So he may get it done, actually. That's actually a shirt for you, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I think I've decided that's my shirt because
Fine.
I have another. I'm gonna cut out a pattern tonight and take another one with me. That's gonna be one of your
No,
shirts.
fine. Is that the
And
one with the kitties?
yeah,
In the
and
multicolored kitties?
I figured if we were gonna do maybe a thing when you're gonna do a shirt,
Mm-hmm.
we'll pick a different fabric.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't really figured out the logistics yet of Walter teaching me how to make a shirt.
But I was going through it in my head, and I was thinking, oh my God.
He of little faith, really.
No, it's not really that I don't think you can do it. I just think that I'm trying to figure out how I teach it.
Well, I just look at it and go, what do I do here?
Okay, well,
Now what do I
fine.
do?
Yeah.
What do I do now? There will be blood. There will be blood. I can tell you that right now. I know there will be blood. Okay.
Because even when I sew a shirt, I still make some minor mistakes and stuff like that. So,
No,
and then I have to go back and correct them.
say it isn't so. Really? You heard it here first, people. He makes mistakes. You know I do. That's just a given. But
I think everybody does.
well,
And
yeah.
you sometimes learn from, sometimes you keep doing them over
Well,
and
we'll
over
see
again.
what we learn from that. But in the meantime, this is what I have been working on. Okay, you've seen this. You've seen it row by row over the last few weeks. The last row of blocks are now done. This is Stephanie's pattern from Stephanie Stitches. It's the Cozy Star quilt, sew along. And so this week, she is supposed to be releasing. I don't know if she's got that on a timer or something for it because she's at a retreat this week, one of her retreats down in Pennsylvania. I hope she's having a good time with that. So, I mean, if she doesn't get it out on Sunday, it's not a big deal. It's okay. I could probably figure out what's coming next anyways, because there's the sashing and I've already seen what the finished product looks like. So, and I have a picture of that, but I'll wait till Stephanie gets it out. I'm not in any rush, but that'll be the next stage of it, assembling it all into the quilt top. And I think it's coming along very nicely. So that's one thing. And the other thing, oops, wrong arrow here. Go. Okay, so I did this. This is an in the hoop applique, an FSA. Well, it's not really a freestanding lace applique or freestanding applique, FSA. It is applique, but it's not freestanding. It's a hanger. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Okay, and it's just cute. It hangs now in my sewing room. And I'll talk a little bit more about this on Idiot Quilter next week, but I thought I'd just give you a little preview of that. So, before we get into our main topic today, which is rulers, announcements. Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, Wednesdays as always, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So, links in the show notes. And pop-up sew day this Saturday. That's tomorrow. This is Friday, September 13th. So tomorrow, Saturday, September the 14th, starting at 8 a.m. Well, the doors open at 8 a.m., the virtual doors. You can come and go, as you please. You've heard me say that many times before. And we're going to have a day of working on projects and possibly getting caught up. I think I'm going to be dedicating my time to in the machine embroidery project that I've been working on. It's a table topper. I'll show that in pieces tomorrow. I'm hoping before the weekend's done, I'll have that whole thing done because it's actually taking me a little longer than I anticipated. There's a few more pieces in it than I thought there were, but I think it'll look really nice when it's done. And I've already figured out where I want to put it when I decorate for the fall season for Thanksgiving. And of course, our Thanksgiving falls early in October for Canadians. For Americans, I know yours is like 2 months away, kind of a thing. Okay, so pop-up sew day tomorrow. On Sunday, and if you've already seen the notice that I sent out as a reminder, I sent it out earlier. Did they send it out yesterday or did I send it out today? I think I sent it out yesterday. You'll notice I added an extra link, and that's for Russ of Quilt Meets World. He is doing his first sew day, and he's doing it this Sunday, September the 15th, and I believe he's starting at 9 a.m. Eastern time and running until 4:30 p.m. He kind of forgot that we do Stephen and Walter live at 4 o'clock. He mentioned that in his vlog on Wednesday, but no big deal. It's fine. It is what it is. I'm not worried about it. So double whammy this weekend. You can have a whole weekend of sewing if you so desire, with both myself and with Russ. And I'll be there on Russ's as well on Sunday. But I will be leaving early to get on at 4 o'clock for Stephen and Walter Live, of course. So should be lots of fun this weekend happening. Walter's off on tomorrow on what you've got your own sort of pop-up sew day, except in person with your garment sewers down at the club with Brendan. So Walter won't be here on Saturday for the pop-up. I know you'll all groan away at that. Maybe he'll make a candid appearance on Sunday. You never know what'll happen there. And just as a little side note, if you notice down here, in this corner right here, I added my logo to this. Yes, I'm very proud of that. I figured out how to do that. Just came to me. Yeah, excitement, right? Okay. Small things for small minds, I guess. All right. Any other announcements? Are you pregnant? No. No. Having a major operation? Oh, no. No. Okay. Nothing major there. Walter bought new pots and pans.
Well, I bought 3 pans.
We're saving that for Stephen and Walter Live to talk about that then. So that's just a sneak peeky preview there. Okay, let's get on with rulers and our stash of rulers. Okay, when you first get into at least quilting, I'm not so sure about people who sew, but when you first get into quilting, you buy a lot of rulers because it seems like you need a ruler for almost every pattern you start to do. I know I spent a fortune. I was a ruler slut. If there was a ruler out there to do that, I had it, and I still do. And out of all of those rulers that I have spent, literally, I probably have $1,000 worth of rulers. And you know, when you're probably going, $1,000? Holy crap. Yeah, rulers aren't cheap. I mean, just
even small rulers are expensive.
Like you're talking on average anywhere between 25 to 35, almost $40 for a ruler. Okay. And I know that turns a lot of people off when they first get into quilting. They're going, holy crap, do I need all these rulers? No, you don't. You need some. It is an investment. I would say you'll probably have to invest about $100 to get started. And then it's on a need to buy basis from there.
And then you also find that you may buy some rulers that you don't use very often.
Oh yeah, we're going to come to that and talk about the waste of money rulers. So today what we're going to talk about is I've gone through my stash of rulers. Walter's gone through his. We're going to talk about various rulers, what we use them for, and which ones are the ones we use the most that we can't really live without, and which ones wasted a lot of money on that haven't seen the light of day since the day I bought them, or whatever. And we're also going to focus a little bit on templates as well. Again, this is something that's more quilter than it is garment sewer, but we're still going to talk about garment sewing and the rulers you'll use with that as well. So I have a series of pictures that, as we're talking about each one of these types of rulers and that, I will put up here on the screen for you to see. But as a brand new quilter, you can be really confused about what you need. So essentially, as a quilter, I think what you need is basically a 12.5 inch by 1.5 inch ruler. Then you'll need one that's probably in around 8 inches to 24 by 24 inches or 6.5 by 24 inches. And you'll need probably a 4-inch and maybe a 6-inch square ruler. Most of those, plus one little extra one I'm going to talk about later on, will get you through almost any situation you need to get through with. So, yeah. Now, how much would that cost you? About $100. Might be a little bit more. The longer rulers, the wider and longer rulers tend to be a little more pricey than other ones. Beware of gimmick rulers. Gimmick rulers are ones I didn't take a picture of these. They look like a paper cutter. I bought 2 of these. They were very expensive at the time. They have a rotary cutter built into them. And it's just like a paper cutter. You put the fabric underneath it, you line it up, and then you push up on the built-in rotary wheel to it. Sounded like a good idea at the time. I bought one that was about 6 inches wide by about 24, and then I bought a big mother of one. Get those thumbs out of my face. I'm gonna stop putting up my thumbs. I bought one, I think it's 12 by 12 with this cutter on the side. You know how many times I've used them? Never. Never. I don't like them. I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. But there's a lot of gimmick rulers out there like that. Like there's one that is kind of controversial right now. It just came out within the last year. It lights up. Sounded like a great idea. If you had trouble seeing the markings on your ruler, or you don't have adequate lighting in your sewing room, you push a button, the whole ruler lights up, and it's easy to see. It's expensive as hell. And at first it only came in one size. Now I think there's a slightly bigger size. And it's way too expensive for what it is. The only thing I can see with that type of ruler, that novelty ruler, because that's what it is for people with possibly bad eyesight, like really bad, where they, have a real hard time seeing the numbers and things on their ruler. Then it might be of benefit to them. Or if you're cutting fabric in the dark. I don't recommend it. So
yeah, but then you wouldn't be able to see your fabric. So
exactly. Got that. No flies on you. You caught on that real quick. Ooh, one for Walter. Okay. So yeah, so there's a lot of these, and we're going to talk a little bit more about these kinds of rulers and things in a moment. First of all, I've told you what I feel as a beginner quilter what will work with you, and there are people who will say that that's even too many. Some will say buy yourself an 8.5-inch wide by 24-inch ruler, and then one that's slightly shorter than that, and you're good to go. Maybe. It depends. So what do you think as a sewer? What do
you tend to use for, like, when I do garment sewing, you tend to use a lot smaller rulers, except for when I'm cutting fabric out, like if you want to cut the width of the fabric or something, then I'll use a bigger, like I have a, what is it? An 8.5 by 24 ruler, and I'll use it for cutting like the width of the fabric or whatever. But then I'll use a lot of smaller rulers. Like I like using just this. It's just a 12-inch ruler, clear.
It's actually 12.5.
12.5, yeah, clear. I use this a lot.
I do too.
And I've used some of these a lot. These are ones that aren't actually quilting rulers. They're ones I bought in a like, a tool shop or whatever. They're like little ones that have small markings on it. And this one has a slider on it, so I can set up a marking. And these are great for doing your hems and getting an even amount on the side. I use them sometimes to measure the width of where your button band is and stuff like that.
And they'd be good for marking.
Yeah, and they're good for marking.
But
they're not good for cutting.
No, these are not good for cutting with a rotary cutter. Because look how thin they are compared to...
No. If I use anything for a rotary cutter, it's one of these type.
Well, you have to.
Or I've used one of these, like it's a little shorter ruler,
But the point I'm making is some people think they can go to the dollar store, buy a school ruler, and use it to cut with a rotary cutter. You cannot. It's disaster for a couple of reasons. One, it isn't thick enough. You won't be able to keep your rotary blade pressed up against it without it sliding off, and that can be a health hazard. You can cut off your fingers with that, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah, and not only that, even if you accidentally roll over it with a rotary blade, you'll ruin your rotary blade.
Yeah, so on the metal ones. Or even wood school rulers as well. The other thing about the rulers is they just don't have any grip.
No.
And usually the commercial rulers that you buy for quilting and that have some form of stickiness on one side of them so that it will adhere to your fabric. It won't move around. And those come in different things. They can be little dots that go on it. You can even get a spray called Grippy. I've used that many times before. It works well. And you just lightly spray the back of a slippery ruler and let it dry for about a minute. And it doesn't leave any residue on your fabric or anything, but it keeps it from sliding around. So, but these don't. These are all over the place. Plus, there is no room for your hand to hold them down. They're too tiny.
Yeah, so like I really only use them for measuring width of stuff and using it for marking. So like if I'm measuring the width of my button band or something like that, and I just use it for marking. I don't use it for cutting.
Yeah. Now, you see, when people first get into quilting, and if they're not sure they're going to like this, they will cheap out. And I get it. They'll go and they'll say, well, I don't need to spend $30, $40 on a ruler for this. I don't know if I'm going to even like it. I'm just going to use whatever I can find in the dollar store, whether it's plastic ruler, metal ruler, whatever. No.
These are not particularly cheap either.
No.
Well, I mean, I buy them for a mechanic thing. Like this one was over $20.
Okay, so
and this one I think was around $20. So they're good quality ruler, but they aren't necessarily cheap.
And the other thing you want when you buy a ruler, besides the fact that it will work with a rotary cutter and it gives a place for your hand to sit on it and it doesn't slide around, is how it is marked. Not all ruler companies that make them for quilting or garments have as clear markings as others. For example, it's very hard to find a ruler that has 1/8 of an inch that you can see. And that may be one reason for the light up one I was talking about. Might make it a little easier, but I don't think so, not at the price.
Oh, these ones aren't too bad.
No, yeah, but you see the different brands. Okay, so let's hold this one up for seeing markings on it, okay? Now on video, this isn't going to translate as well, but you can see those are dark markings. Hold up the big ruler.
These are good too.
I don't like these.
I do.
They're too hard to see.
Actually, it's not this one, but this one. I use this one a lot. Which you don't like, but anyway.
Well, that one's not bad for seeing it in the yellow.
Yeah.
And I like, if you hold it up again, if you notice there are subdivisions done in sort of another color. So those are your 1/4 inches, and it's good because you can line it up all the way down to keep things straight. And that other one has it too, but there are some rulers, these are probably not the best examples to show this, but there are some rulers where you can't see the markings except maybe on the whole, on the half or the whole number markings. When you get down to 1/4 inches and that kind of thing, even 1/8 of an inch, it becomes much more difficult to see because they haven't marked them as clearly. So you may, when you're looking for a ruler, not all brands are equal. So look at what you can see the best, where your eye goes. And you notice big numbers on dots on these ones. And I think the one you have too, they both have the dots.
Yeah, these have big markings.
Yeah, so now I have one problem with this one though. It's the color yellow.
Yeah.
The yellow, if you hold that up again so you can see the dots, and look at the dots on, okay, hold it over just a bit that way. Okay, get the glare off from the lights. Okay, see the numbers, how they're on here? See the numbers on here. Which one does your eye see first? Mine sees white, not the yellow. So that's what I mean. But this is not things that I knew when I first got into quilting. Now, that's not to say that any of those rulers we've just shown you, they're not cheap rulers, and they are made by brand name companies, but not all the same. And we each have our personal preferences, all of us as quilters, to what we really like. I lean towards rulers by Creative Grids. I believe the yellow ones that you're showing are Omni, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Omni, which are a good name in rulers too, but I find that I can see what I'm cutting better with the Creative Grids. Now here, up here on the screen, here are, I've sort of divided up the rulers by classification. These are square rulers. And square rulers can be as small as, well, if you see, there's one I've got there that's 2.5 inches square in the little holder. And then I think the other one behind it is 3.5, then it's 4.5, and then 6.5. But then you get into these bigger ones. And you'll notice most of my rulers, many of them are Creative Grids, but the yellow ones, I do use the yellow ones on occasion, but not as much. I have most of those other rulers in Creative Grid rulers. But when I first got into quilting, I bought Omni Grid because I didn't know. I thought, yeah. And they're not a bad ruler, and some people love them. I just think the markings on Creative Grids are clearer for that kind of thing. But a lot of square rulers. Now, these are all rulers that have not gone into the pile of rulers that I never use. These are readily available for me to select from when I need a ruler. And I find when it comes to square rulers, I don't know if you can have too many different sizes of square rulers because you have different sizes of blocks. And when it comes to squaring up, trimming a block up, square rulers are a must. And one of the things you want on your ruler, and all of these have it, and I don't know if you can see it clearly in here, but if you look at the one that's got my name on it, there is a black line running from diagonal corner to diagonal corner. That's a 45-degree line. That is necessary for squaring up a block. I don't know. How often would you use those kind of lines?
I don't tend to use them.
Now, some rulers have 45 and 60-degree angles. 60-degree angles you use less frequently. Those are usually when you're cutting something that's a triangle or something like a diamond shape, but they do have rulers for doing that as well. But you do want the 45-inch line when you're squaring up a block, because that runs right from corner to corner. You run it through the center of your block, and then you know you're going to have equal amounts that you're trimming off from each side with that. And that's the whole idea of squaring up a block. Next category are triangular rulers. Now, there are all kinds of triangular style rulers on the market, and some of them are specialty. There are ones for cutting out special, they're almost like a template for cutting pieces that are diamond shaped or kite shaped. These rulers that I have here, especially the one that say Strip Tube Junior, I use these when I'm squaring up half square triangles. Before you unfold a half square triangle block or unit, you leave it folded, you put the line that goes across the ruler that corresponds to how big you want the half square triangle to be. So if you want a 2.5-inch half square triangle, when it's still folded and looks like a triangle, you put on the seam line, the sewn line that you have already done, you put the 2.5-inch line, which is very difficult to see here, but it's right around there where my arrow is, if you can see my arrow. You put that right along the seam line in the center of the triangle, and you trim off on either side, and when you open it up, you have a perfect half square triangle, the right size. You can do that with a square block as well. You open it up. But I find using one of these, I like using the triangle much better. Now, I have a large one for bigger half square triangles, and the smaller one, I love them. I use them all the time. The one above that, the clearly perfect slotted trimmer, is one that they often sell at Missouri Star Quilt. It works the same way, but it has little notches on the side for cutting off your dog ears at the same time, which I think is a good idea. I never use it. I find it awkward. So that ruler I don't use. very much. I stick to this Strip Tube Junior, but I know many people who love the slotted trimmer ruler because it gets rid of your dog ears for them right, because I have to clip them off afterwards, after I've got them trimmed down, which isn't, takes a little bit more time, but I just find that very awkward to use. But again, that's personal preference. Now, do you use any triangular rulers or square rulers?
I have square rulers, but I probably don't use them the way you would use them.
So how do you use them?
Well, just as a regular ruler, only they're square.
Oh, okay.
I may use it to extend a ruler. Like if I'm cutting a really wide piece of fabric, I may use my 24-inch ruler and then add a piece of ruler on top of it to give me a
for longer
cut.
Yeah, okay.
But actually now what I sometimes do now is I just cut it up to a certain point and then move the ruler up and cut the rest of it and align it to the original cut side that I've already done. So
now that brings up a couple of interesting points. One I was going to mention before and I forgot. Why such long rulers, 24 inches? I don't think you can get a ruler any longer than 24 inches because, and there's a reason for that. The longer the ruler, the harder it is to keep it straight when you're with one hand while you're cutting with the other. It tends to, when you get closer to the top of the ruler, if you haven't moved your hand up that way, it tends to shift a little bit. Now, some people, and I'm one of these people, I have a little 5-pound or 3-pound hand weight, the kind of thing for doing these kind of things with, and I put it up at the end. And especially do that when I'm trimming up a quilt, when I'm squaring up a quilt after it's come off the long arm. And that keeps it from sliding and I keep things straight. But if you have rulers that are shorter than that, you can butt the rulers up to each other. I find that very awkward. I'd rather not.
Well, that's what I started doing. And then now what I do is I tend to cut up as far as the ruler can go or as far as I want to go on the ruler. And then I just slide the ruler up higher and line it up to the cut part that I've already cut. And then cut the rest of it.
Another thing you can do though, because fabric is usually about 40 to 44 inches wide, the ruler is 24 inches long. If you fold the fabric over, like when you get your fabric, it's probably already folded in half, like salvage to salvage. Then if you fold it, if it's too wide, you can put another fold in it. But when you do that, then there's more chance of you getting a wow when you cut it. That's why the grip on the ruler is really important so it doesn't slide. But you can do that. Too. Whatever you do, there's one thing you have to be sure of. Your hands are not in danger. Some people like to use a handle. That you can buy handles that have little suction cups on them that'll fit on your larger rulers. And you can press down on that, and that gives you more control. Or you can buy the rulers that Felon of So Be It Quilts sells, which I think they're called the Sherlock ones. And I have a couple of them because they were gifted to me. They are basically a straight piece of acrylic with a huge handle in the middle. And when you press down on the handle, it's sort of on springs and it pushes out through holes in the ruler, in the center part of the ruler, little grippers on these little pegs with grippers on the end. Your fabric will not move with one of those. I guarantee it. However, the disadvantage of that type of ruler is there are no markings on it. So that means you may have to line it up. You can line it up with another ruler, butt it up against it, or you can line it up with the markings on your cutting mat. But beware, not all cutting mats are absolutely as accurate as rulers. So the rule of thumb is when you're lining things up to cut straight, line them up with the markings on the ruler, not on your cutting mat. So see, in cutting mats is a whole different discussion. But yeah. So You've got your square rulers, you've got your triangular rulers, you've got rulers that you can see the markings on clearly, you've got rulers that you know you can grip your fabric safely with. So what other kinds of rulers are there? Well, there's all the straight rulers that I own. We've already talked a little bit about them. You'll notice something that these rulers all have in common, with the exception of the last one on the end here. These are all creative grids. And I like the creative grids. My personal decision on that is because I can see the markings on them very clearly. And that's important. And you see, I've got a wide variety. I have one that's 12 and a half inches wide by 24, 8.5 by 24, 6.5 by 24, 2.5 by 24, 3.5 by 12, 3.5 by 18. That's by 18. I think that one's an 18 too. No, it's a 24.
Yeah, I have a couple of shorter ones too.
And this one's an 18. I think it's a 3.5 by 18 as well. Actually, I noticed Walter brought down this ruler. What size is this ruler?
This is a 6.5 by 3.5.
Just let me put that. Okay, I need to get one that size.
I do like this ruler.
Yeah.
I use it fair bit.
Because sometimes your rulers can be too long. If you're not cutting a long piece of fabric, it gets in your way.
Yeah.
This gives you better control, something that size. And that is one ruler I do not own. So I'll have to look for one of those next time I go shopping. There's a problem with your payment. No, there's not. From Apple. But it's not. No, there's no problem. We just bought new iPhones today. And of course, it opened up today for pre-orders. It's a little aside here in case you've done that too. Watch it. The scammers are out. They're trying to claim that there was a problem with your payment going through with Apple. No. Apple sends you a confirmation right after when it has cleared, your payment has cleared, you get a confirmation from them. They don't contact you about it. So don't take the scammers.
Yeah, especially right now with these new products being released from Apple. If you order anything online or something like that, or even if you don't order anything online, there's lots of scammers trying to get your information.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just a little aside here, back to what we're talking about. So, straight rulers. Straight rulers are probably the first ruler that you will buy, for obvious reasons. Okay. Now, these are specialty rulers. They are expensive, and they are well worth the money. These are, and you've probably heard of them, they're called Stripology. And just as the name says, they're for cutting strips of fabric. There are slots. It's difficult to show here on the way, but there are slots. You see these little black numbers that run here, down here, and there's these little holes. Well, there's a slot that runs from one edge of the ruler to the other. So if I need a 2.5 inch strip, I lay my fabric down on this. I line up the edge, my straight edge of my fabric. I've straightened it before I use this. And on the 0 slot right here, and then I stick my rotary cutter in this 2.5 inch slot and I zip it up. Now this is where you're going to have to double over your fabric, because this will only handle about 21 inches of fabric. So you'll have to double it over so you can get it, lined up with all of these, because you can't really slide this ruler up further. But this is great. If you need a whole bunch of 2.5 inch strips like you're doing binding, you would leave your fabric under there, put your hand down on this, cut it 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15, 18, 15, 15 and 2, 17.5, and 20. And this goes up to 20. And so there, how many strips is that? 6, 8 strips? 8 strips? Yeah, 8 strips. I think, no, 7 strips. Whatever. Works really well, really fast. It's great. They come in other sizes. This is 10. The X10. Yeah, it's probably 10. Well, no, it's 2.5, so it'd be less, about 8. Yeah. Anyways, let's not worry about it. I'm sure you can do the math out there. But the one beside it is the same type of ruler, same company, Stripology. This one is a little smaller. it goes up to 6.5 inches. So you can't cut as many strips, but it's great when you're cutting, if you want to cut squares. Notice the markings. Same with this one. It has markings for squares on here. So this is a 2-inch square. This would be a 3-inch, 4-inch, etc. So you lay your fabric underneath it, line it up with the straight edge at the 0 point, and cut. Can you cut 1/2 inches and 1/4 inches? Yes, you can. Notice there are 1/2 inch marks on both of these. But what about 1/4 inch? Now, I didn't realize this, and I had these rulers for quite a long time before I said, I wish they'd put 1/4 inch marks on them, because that would make life so much easier. Well, guess what? They do. I didn't. If you look here on the side, there's some dotted lines. This on the big ruler right here. Where's my arrow? Okay, where's my cursor? Not that you guys can see the cursor. Right here, along this edge where the 0 is, just beyond it, this is a 1/4 inch mark, and this is a 1/2 inch mark. So what you do is, if I needed to cut a piece 1 1/4 inches long, I would take the straight edge of my fabric, line it up with this first dotted line, and cut at 1. That would give me a 1 1/4 inch strip. Or line it up with the outside line, and that would give me a 1 1/2 inch strip, and etc. if I cut at 1. And that's this one. This one works the same way with 1/4 inch. They're marked on here. In fact, this one, actually the smaller one, marks this off as 8ths. That's 1/8 of an inch right there. And that's 3/8 of an inch. So I don't know if you could use that in garment sewing, because don't you guys use a lot of 3/8?
Yeah, I just use it for seam sew.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there is another one as well that's square. I don't own it. I need to buy that one though. These I use a lot. In fact, I've used them so much. This is my second one because I broke the first one. You have to be careful with them. If you let them wobble around, you should store them flat. Or if you're going to store them vertically, store them where they'll be supported on both sides, press between them, between 2 cabinets for the big one. Because if they wobble back and forth too much, they will split at these little hole markings. How much do these cost? This is about $100 Canadian, maybe a little bit more for the big one. This one, I'm not sure. It's probably about 60, something like that. They are not cheap. But they are well worth the investment, I can tell you that. And I use them all the time, all the time. Now, they even have the diagonal line markings. They have a 60-degree, and they have a, actually, I think both of these are 60-degree. No, that one's probably a 45. That one's that. Yeah, it is. Okay, this one's a 45, the first line across here, the other one's 60, and they're on opposite sides, so you can orient them. I never use... Well, I shouldn't say that. I have used that line when I was doing something on a biased cut and a big piece of fabric. But I'll be honest, angles confuse me. So I try to avoid them. But they are well worth the money. Where's my little button here? Okay, now we're moving into specialty rulers. Sometimes manufacturers of patterns or pattern designers will also have a ruler they want you to use specifically for that pattern. Sometimes that's a good thing because it makes cutting very easy. Sometimes it's a one-off, meaning if you never make that pattern again, you've just spent a lot of money for this specialty ruler that's going to sit in a drawer forever after you have finished the quilt. These rulers don't fall into that class yet, but I will show you some of these in a moment. This one is called the Ultimate Flying Geese ruler. Now, there are various different rulers for making flying geese, to make your flying geese easier. This one is my favorite. It shows you up here at the top, you need 2 pieces of fabric to make the flying geese. You put the 2 pieces of fabric, you lay them on top of each other and draw a line and sew a line. The only thing is with flying geese, it's not like making a half square triangle. Now, the conventional way for making a flying goose is if you've got a strip that's 2 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches, for example, you will have 2 squares of fabric, 2.5 inches square. You lay them on an end, you draw a line, you sew on that line, you cut off from 1/4 inch away from that, fold it over, then you do the same the other, makes a flying geese. In this method, you have a large square of fabric, then a smaller square of fabric. You lay them on top, you draw your lines, you cut, and well, it explains it actually right on the ruler, what you need and what you're going to end up with. If you need a finished flying goose a certain size, you look at this, it tells you what you need for the big piece of fabric, what you need for the small piece of fabric, and how many. You need 4 pieces of it. Shows you what it'll look like when you're done. And the beauty is there's trim 1, trim 2. So to get the size, you look here and say I did one and it corresponds to C. You line up for your first cut after you've sewn your pieces on. You line it up with the C marking, which is very difficult to see here. 1, 2, 3, we see it, but there's a dotted line. So it fits up there very nicely, the point of your flying goose. You trim it at the top and on the side. Flip the ruler around to the trim number 2. Flip the block, line it up on the C that's on here, trim it, you have a perfect flying goose. That's the right size that you need. I know that's not, I probably lost you if you've never seen one of these before. It is very easy to use. It's very hard to explain in this without actually doing a demonstration. I love this ruler. I use it all the time when I'm making flying geese. And with this method, you're making 4 flying geese at once as well, which saves some time. The ruler below it is a log cabin ruler. I've had this for a while. I forgot I had it. I've never used it. And then I saw a video about how to use it, and I went, oh, that makes making log cabin strips so much easier, because you don't have to cut all of your strips. You know, there's different lengths. They're all the same width, but there's different lengths, and you lay them out, and then you got to fit them all on. No, you just cut strips, the width that you need, sew them on, use this ruler. The instructions come with it. Cut off the ends with it, move on. Very fast for making a log cabin block. And what I like too about this one, this is a Creative Grids ruler. I believe it's a Creative Grids ruler. Trying to see. Yes, it is. There it is. Creative Grids. This is a Creative Grids. The other one was a Creative Grids. Beauty of this Creative Grid rulers, and they do this on a lot of their rulers like this, they put a little QR code on it. Just go in with your phone, use your camera, take the picture of the QR. It'll immediately take you to their a YouTube video that shows you exactly how to use the ruler. Don't need a manual. That's cool. These 2 rulers are for very special things, but I can't live without them. This is the trimmer by George. You've seen it in some of our videos about doing in the hoop applique. This one has a special lip. It is meant for pulling your fabric back so you can cut off the stabilizer on the back of it without cutting the fabric. And it's marked like a ruler. It is, I feel it's a must for anybody that does a lot of in the hoop projects in embroidery. It is great. It's called Trimmer by George. And I have 2.0, but they have a 3.0, which I don't think there's a lot of difference between the two. They might have a few more markings on it. You can use it as a regular ruler too, for that matter, because it, you know, it's not that wide, but it's got markings. It's about 6.5 inches, I think, wide, and about 12.5 inches long. This ruler is brilliant. If you are a bag maker, and when you're squaring the bottom of your bag, you can use this. See this little cutout here? The square cutout? You use that for cutting out your corners of your bag to whatever size you want. You just line it up with the edge of the bag, and like if you want a 2.5 inch cutout, you just line up that mark and the 2.5 mark there, and you'll notice it's got little extra slots in it. That's so your rotary cutter will go through and just past the edge of the fabric. Because if you've ever done it with a pair of scissors, you know that you've either or if you've just done it with a rotary cutter, you've marked it with a pencil. Unless you're really exact, you'll probably go a hair over the line and then you've got an extra little cut. This one avoids that problem. This is by Carolina Lina Moore. She also is the one who invented the light up rulers. Don't like those, but I like this. It's also great if you're doing, you need a curve bottom on a bag or even a curve for something else because it has a curved template right here. And I'm not sure what the V is for, but it is for something. You can use this to make those scalloped bowls. You know, this, you can cut out your fabric for making a scallop bowl by using this curve. And it comes with a little pamphlet that shows you all the different things you can do with it. This is worth the money. I can't remember what I spent on this. I don't think it was that expensive. It was probably about 25 bucks Canadian. Quit playing footsies with me. No. So yeah. So these are specialty rulers, but they're ones that you are more than a one-off. Now, these are rare and in some cases one-offs. Okay, I talked about triangles. Well, this ruler, it's a diamond. If you're going to cut something you need in diamond shapes or kite shapes and things like that, well, this ruler might make that a little easier. How many quilts have I done with that design in them? I don't think I've done any. I may have used this for a table runner or something, and I've never used it since. So it sits in my drawer of out of sight, out of minds. This long wedge ruler, I used it once, and you can see what it makes. Sure, they're cool, but how many do you want to make of these different things? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So yeah, and this was expensive, this ruler. I think this one cost me about 60 bucks Canadian for it. This one, this is definitely was a one-off, the braided twist. This was a very popular design for table runners back a few years ago. I thought it was a cool design, but you definitely had to have this ruler to make it. I used it once. Yeah, table runner turned out nice. It was great. But I don't want to make any more of those. So, and again, this one probably cost me 25 or 30 bucks for the ruler. Now, the pineapple trim ruler is a great ruler if you love pineapple quilts. How many pineapple quilts have I made to date? One. But I needed the ruler. No, you can make a pineapple quilt without this ruler. But this made life a lot easier when it came to trimming it up. And it's very much like that Flying Geese, the Ultimate Flying Geese ruler. It shows you right on here how to use it. And because it's Creative Grids, it's got a little QR code that you can go to figure out how to use it. Okay, these are now borderlining into templates. About a year or two ago, these were all the rage. The Twister Sisters, the special little ruler for making this design that you see on the corner of the package. Looked really cool. I did a table runner and I did something that looks like a Christmas wreath with it. Very cool. But I used only one of these rulers. I have them in all three sizes. The midi, the tiny, the large. I think there might be another size in here as well. Bought them all, pretty much. Used one. Haven't gone back. Again, these ones weren't terribly expensive. And there are all kinds of patterns out there that use them for making this look. But that's the thing. This is the look you're going to get. If you like that, go for it. Drunkard's Path. These are actual templates. There's a glare on this. You can't see them, but you know what a drunkard's path is. There's a variety of things you can do with a drunkard's path. You are sewing in half circles, so curves. This makes cutting them out much easier. I prefer using my AccuQuilt. That works a lot better for cutting out the pattern pieces than having to follow a template. Generally speaking, if I find a pattern that needs a special template, I don't buy the pattern because I hate using templates. And the other problem with templates is, in many cases, like this one, this has a bag full of templates to make this. I took a class. It turned out it sits on my bistro table in our rec room. I like it. It was a bitch to make. And you definitely had to have these templates. These were not cheap. This package, I think, ran me about $65 Canadian for it. And I've never made another one because I didn't really enjoy making it. Turned out okay, but it was not easy. So those are examples of ones that are more templates than rulers. And then more specialty ones as well. I have not taken the paper off this one. Deb Tucker has all kinds of rulers, and they are good. And she has instructions how to make all kinds of different patterns and things using her various rulers, and they're great. They are great. There's lots of YouTube videos that she puts out as well on how to use them. I thought the particular design, and it's on the inside, this is still, I never took the plastic off it because I never got around to making it. In fact, this sits in the drawer of no return. I forgot I had it until I was digging through. So I may leave it out for a future project. You can see how expensive it was though. $31 Canadian for this sucker, and I haven't used it. This one, I bought this because I thought it'd be a good idea for cutting circles. Not really, because you need a really small rotary cutter in here, like no bigger than 45, 28 is best for this, and you're only getting part of the circle. It cuts half circles. It does have markings on it, so you can flip it over and cut the rest of it. But in my way of thinking, again, this is where my AccuQuilt machine is very good for this, because I've got several dies that cut several different sizes of circles if I need a circle. So that's what I'll use. But I thought it would be something that would be really handy. And
I bet you paid quite a lot for that.
Oh yeah, this one wasn't cheap. This one was at least probably $35 to $50 Canadian. I have no idea why I bought this one.
You thought you were going to do Dresden at one point.
It must have been. It must have been, because this is a Dresden rulers, and there are all kinds of Dresden rulers. And if you love doing Dresdens, which are basically these types of shapes here, this is actually a stylized Dresden in the way they have it here, then you'll probably want to get a Dresden template or Dresden ruler for it. But I don't know why I bought it. It hasn't been taken out of the package either.
You get it on sale or something?
Oh no, I probably saw it and saw it. There was probably in a quilt store somewhere on one of our trips, and they probably had a quilt sitting next to it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I probably have the pattern somewhere for it, and it said, oh, you need it this ruler. So I immediately purchased the ruler. I have no idea what I paid for that ruler. Okay. This was the biggest waste of money on rulers that I have ever spent. I'll tell you how much in a minute. This is a system for making a mariner's compass. I had always wanted to do a mariner's compass. The creator of this system, because it is a system, her name is Robin Ruth or Ruth Robin? Robin Ruth, I think. It should be on here somewhere. I'm sure many of you know who I'm talking about. Her name is not on.
Oh, there it is. Fat Robin.
Well, yeah, well, it's. I think her name is Robin Ruth. Ruth Robin. Anyways, she has a whole system with a whole bunch of different rulers. This is just one of the rulers that come in this system. And for making these mariner's compasses. Mariner compasses are beautiful. They remind me of a New York Beauty, but they're different from a New York Beauty. I fully intended to do this. I bought these probably 2-3 years ago. You know how much what you're looking at cost me? These booklets have the rulers with them. They have complete instructions for various sizes and everything that you have to do. You're looking at $250 Canadian for what you see in front of you right now. I have never used it. And in fact, I have bought since then an Acu quilt die to make a mariner's compass, which actually it is all still in the original wrapper too. Haven't got around to that. And it was less expensive than this system. And this is a very involved system. And that's probably why I never got right down to it. Because as I was looking through it, and even though I watched her videos and everything like that, I thought, oh my God, I need to dedicate a month of my life where I do nothing but work on this and nor sleep, nor eat, or anything with it. So what am I going to do with this? I'm going to take it to one of the retreats I'm going to, and I'm going to offer it up as a door prize. Someone's going to get it because I know I am never going to do it, ever. So, yeah, that's the most expensive ruler set that I have ever bought. You know, live and learn, okay? But you know, it looked like a great idea at the time. And that's how they got me. Because I'm sure her system is brilliant. And it looks brilliant. But it ain't easy. So, yeah. Okay, so do you have any rulers that you bought and you don't?
I do have one, but I've got it upstairs.
What is it?
It's a French curve. It's for supposedly resizing clothing patterns and stuff like that.
Is that one of those ones that's flexible? It's like plastic flexible?
It's just got a curve on
Oh,
it, right?
oh, the one that sort of looks like a scroll?
Yeah.
Oh, I always wondered what you do with those.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've never really looked at it, and I've never really used it. I just bought it out of a whim.
And what's the point of it?
I think it has to do with you figuring out curves and stuff on your fabric when you're cutting them out. I have no idea. I haven't even looked at it, and it wasn't that expensive of a ruler. It might have cost me $30, but it's upstairs somewhere, tucked away. I've never used it.
In a drawer of no return. Yeah. As I call it, the hole of rulers.
I mean, maybe when I get, like, I haven't been doing a lot of variety of clothing, but I can't see there being too much. Maybe I think it's more for ladies' clothing than it is for men's.
I was going to say, it sounds more like for ladies' clothing.
No, I haven't used it.
Maybe if you're making silky little under things.
Maybe I don't know. I'd have to investigate that further, but I didn't bring it down, and I completely forgot until we were sitting here that I had that ruler.
Now, the other thing about rulers is I didn't show you all my rulers.
Yeah, like, I mean, I bought this ruler a long time ago, right?
What they can't see. You've got your hand.
I bought this one. It's a great big.
I've got one as well.
Square ruler. It's a 20 by 20.
Yeah.
I thought at one point in time when I was cutting out big pieces of fabric that, oh, this would be great to have because, you know, it's 20 by 20, right? And so far, I have not used it much.
I bought one as well, but I bought it on a whim. And same as Walter, I have used it on occasion, but very rarely.
Well, actually, it was a good price because these are really expensive.
Yeah, that's why I bought it on a whim because it was on sale.
It's a 20 and a half by 20 and a half. And I think the regular price was well over $100. And I think I paid $50 for it.
Yeah.
But I think I used it a couple of times at the beginning, and I occasionally bring it out if I'm trying to cut a large square piece of fabric. But I don't tend to use it that much.
If you've got a block you need to square up and it's bigger than 12 and a half inches, then that's where that would come in handy. But for us as quilters, we don't usually have blocks that are more than 12 and a half inches. That quilt that I'm showing you that I'm working on with Stephanie right now, those blocks measure 12 and a half inches. So I can handle squaring those up I have a 12.5-inch square ruler. But if they were 13 or 13.5 or bigger, then I would have to use that ruler if I wanted to use a square ruler. There's other ways to square up. We don't have to use a square ruler for that. But yeah.
So but that was more before I started realizing that I can. That's when I was thinking I had to cut a bigger width or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got more into being able to use multiple rulers or just shifting my ruler down the side or whatever. So I find that I practically never use that ruler.
No. So I did look on the internet, and because, we do when we're starting something new, right? And I looked up, I tried to look up a guide for comparing the different brands of rulers, and I found this, and I have it linked in the show notes below for you as well. But they talk about the 12 of the best quilting rulers of 2024. And so they talk here, and we're just going to go very briefly around. Some of these I do not know. Arteza square patchwork rulers, I have never heard of them. They look very much like a creative, well, they are by Creative Grid. So why are they calling that a different name from Creative Grids? Because they have Creative Grids in there. I don't know, but they're showing in this a Creative Grids ruler. So let's move on from that. Now they've got a Creative Grids here, 6.5 by 6.5. I own that one. That is one that I use pretty frequently, and it's Creative Grids.
I do have some square ones too, but I don't know. I can't remember what sizes I have, and they're kind of varied.
I mean, I do like owning a lot of square rulers in various graduation of sizes, which I already mentioned, because I do use them. This is another Creative Grids, 1.5 inch by 6.5 inch ruler, which we've already, they're saying that's 1.5 inch by 6.5 inch square. Wait, is this stuff from below the picture?
No, those some of those pictures don't match because
they're not matching.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, go back to the 1.5 by 6.5.
Well, I don't think this is in. It is. Oh, I don't know. That's confusing. Okay, so the 6.5.
That's a 6.5
by 6.5. Okay, then below that they're saying the next one is 1.5 inches by 6.5 inch ruler.
That's not 1.5 by 6.5.
No, that is not 1.5 by 6.5. So, okay, this article might not be it may be very confusing.
I mean,
oh, here it is here. Okay, they've mixed up their pictures.
Yeah.
They're talking to, no, wait, that's a 6.5 by 24 inch.
24, and that is a 1.5.
That's a 1.5 by 6. They've mixed the two pictures up. Okay, holy really confuse you, Batman.
Yeah.
Triangle rulers, which we've already talked about. This is Easy Quilting Angle. This is by a company, I don't know this Easy Quilting or EZ Quilting. Angle, Easy Angle 6.5 inch. Not sure what you'd use that for.
Remember, that's American.
Yeah,
Easy.
Oh, yeah.
Not EZ.
Yeah, okay, right, fine. So Easy Dresden template. Well, we've talked about that, and they come in various sizes and types. This is a So Easy. I have heard of that company. I don't own any of their rulers. Here's this Easy again. This is the 60-degree triangle. 60-degree inch triangle. If you're going to buy a triangular ruler, a 60-degree one is probably the one you want to go with, because I think you'll get the most use out of that. But again, how many times do you need triangles when you're making a quilt? Maybe with table runners. And there are some quilts too, I suppose. Creative Grids, bias binding, simplify. Okay. I didn't show you the one I have. But, okay, this is for cutting bias binding. Yeah, this will work. I mean, basically what you're doing is it's got one end that's flat. You put it up on a straight edge of your fabric and bring it down across, and that way, you're at a 45-degree angle, so you don't have to measure the 45-degree angle. I don't have one like this. I don't do a lot of bias binding. And when I have had to do bias binding, I've been able to use the 45-degree line on any of the rulers that I own. This might make things a little easier. If you did a lot of bias binding, you might want to buy something like that. And it's by Creative Grids, so it would be a good ruler. Martelli. Or no, Marty Mitchell.
Actually, okay. That's the one that you had.
Yes, it is. That's designed by, it's a log cabin ruler. They don't even show a picture of it.
No.
But as I said, that's a good ruler if you like the log cabins. Creative Grids has a circle thing too. Never used it. Looks awkward. I don't know. It might be okay.
Depends on what you want it for.
Yeah, so. If you want to do a Drunkard's Path block, you could do it with this. It is what it is. June Taylor Charming Circles Quilt Ruler. Okay, these almost look, but I don't think they are quite, almost like a cathedral window block. For something like this is a very special type of block. This might make your life easier, but if you're only going to do one quilt, unless this is like $10 or less, I don't know, you might want to think twice. Alchemy Design Star Quilting Ruler. I have no idea what you'd use that for. They're templates. They're not a ruler. I guess if you want to cut out squares.
It goes back to what you want to use it, and you got to be aware that some of these ones they're saying now are specialty ones where you may not use it all the time.
Yeah. So that gives you a list. I'm sure you can find other lists about it. Creative Grids, and I have put the link for all these companies in here. So this is kind of just a recap of what I've already said. I like Creative Grid rulers probably the best because they grip well, the markings are clear, and they have many, many of them. And they also do make the Stripology rulers as well. They didn't invent them. They were invented by Gudrun of GE Designs. But this is the company that makes them for her. I don't think you can go wrong with buying a Creative Grids ruler.
Yeah, actually, I like them as well.
OmniGrid are good too. It's just, for me, I don't like the yellow.
I've gotten used to using the ones that I've got. They're different. They feel different, or it's just, they're just different. That's all.
They slide more than the Creative Grids.
Yeah.
So you may want to buy some of those little sticky discs that you can put on the back of them, or get some grippy with that.
Yeah, you're right.
See, there's no.
Yeah, but actually, I think the
they have a rougher surface on the back.
Yeah, the what do you call it? The yellow markings offer a bit of a rougher surface. So.
Quilter Select. I do not own any of their rulers, but these ones they're famous for the fact that they will not slip, and they don't. I have tried one before, and whatever they have on the back of them, it holds. It holds really well. The markings on them are very clear. You can get them in all different types and sizes. There is one little problem, and it's minor. They're not completely clear because of whatever they put on the back. They are just a little foggy. I don't think it really causes any problem for seeing the markings and for cutting, but they're not as clear as the Creative Grids one.
Yeah, you might have some issues with certain colors of fabric.
Yeah. They tend to be pricey as well. Of course, I've already talked about the Stripology rulers, and here's the large one I showed you, and here's the mini that I showed you, and this is the one that I don't own that I would like to get my hands on. You can see these are all American prices, by the way, so these are pricey, but the square one, I wouldn't mind owning that. And this one, I'm not sure what the difference is between these two.
I think that's the one. Which one?
This is the one I own up here. This one I don't own, but it shows everything in squares, but it's a little longer. Stripology Quarters Mini Ruler. So it's got some other markings on here. I have never seen one of these in person, so I'm not sure what's different about it. If I can...
They look like they have more.
they've got these other holes here that line up. So
1, 2 1/4, 1 1/4.
oh, okay. So what they've done is, okay, this would be handy. Instead of having to go over here to the dotted line, I showed you on the other ones for 1/4 inch cuts, they actually have a groove cut into it. So if you needed a 1 1/4 inch strip, you'd put it in that hole. That's a good thing. And then over here you have 1/8 of an inch. So if you needed a piece 1 1/8 inch, you'd line up your straight edge with the 1/8 and cut it at the 1. That, or if you want it, what's a 1/4 plus 1/8?
3/8.
3/8. Yeah. So if you needed 3/8, you could do that with these slots. So if you wanted 3/8 strips, say, what? No, I don't know.
Yeah, 1/4 and 1/8.
Yeah,
a 1/4 is actually 2/8.
2/8. Yeah, so
Right.
3/8.
Yeah.
So you could use it for that. We don't often have 3/8 of an inch in quilting, but yeah, actually, I think this one would be almost more useful to me than the other square one. This one, because I didn't realize this one. This is relatively new. They've come out with. I may have to look.
I mean, I mind you, it's only a 7-inch ruler.
Yeah, that's true. These ones are a little long. Well, that one's only 7-inch that I have.
Yeah.
This one though is longer. I need both. Christmas list. Okay, Tucker trimmers. All kinds of them. They're a good ruler. Her methods are really good for cutting things. She believes in oversized blocks and trimming them down, and so the rulers are designed for that. She has tons of patterns for using these rulers, so they're not one-offs, and the patterns are really nice for this stuff. So yeah, I own a few of them. I don't use them very often. I think they are best for one of her patterns. You could adapt it to another pattern. But most of the time, I don't know. I don't want to sit there and figure out how I can use something I already own. I mean, I want to get on with the quilting. If it's a pattern I really, really like, and I have to buy a ruler for it, then I will. I did that with the Alaska quilt when we were in Berlin, and I haven't started it yet, but I bought the ruler at the same time for it. I'm just lazy like that. Here is the ones I hate the most, and I know this is sacrilege for many of you people. This is a Martelli product. I hate Martelli products. The only product I own by Martelli that I like is their cutting mat, their large cutting mat. I have their stupid little ergonomically correct, what do you call it? Rotary cutters.
I've got one of those too. I don't like it either.
I have 60 and a 45 millimeter. Hate them. Absolutely hate them. And I have one of these. Yes, this is great for cutting strips of fabric. It holds your fabric like nothing else at all. The fabric will not move, but you can't see any markings. There aren't any markings on these at all. You're cutting blind as far as I'm concerned. Now, before you write me hate mail, because you will write me hate mail about Martelli, you're going to tell me, oh, I love Martelli, their products are excellent, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if it works for you, you do it. They don't work for me. I know there's ways that you can line things up using something you can't see through and with that, but why should I? You know, and that's why they don't slip, because they can't make whatever these are made out of. They can't make them out of a clear acrylic. If they did, it would just be the same as a Creative Grids ruler or something like that, or Stripology. Sorry, that's my opinion about Martelli's products. I think they are great salespeople because they have you convinced that this is all you'll ever need. Again, no hate mail, please. I will ignore it from that. So those are rulers. I hope it gave you some ideas. I'm just going to see. Templates, we didn't talk much about them, but a template is a template. I hate templates. I hate trying to cut them. I especially hate, though, what I hate worse than a paper temp or a plastic template, plastic or acrylic template is a paper one. When I get a pattern and I have to photocopy, tape pieces of paper together and try and cut out something using those, No. I've had a few of those. I didn't realize
You're not gonna like clothing sewing.
you don't have to cut out as many
Okay,
pieces
fine, yeah.
with that. But I may not. I may not like that either. I don't know. But I just don't. I don't like it. And the other problem is then I would rather have an acrylic template, and then that means I'm gonna have to buy it. So, I kind of stay away from things that take specialty templates for it because I'll probably never use them again. I really wish I could make them on my 3D printer, and I can, but they're not, the plastic you use in that gets cut by the rotary cutter. And I've had people ask me if I can do that. And the answer is yes and no. Yes, I can do it, but they're a waste of time because they're not right. If I had a laser cutter and acrylic, whoa. But those are $5,000 up and they give off fumes. You have to have them specially vented. So not get one of those anytime soon, if ever at all. So just to recap, which rulers do we like best in terms of brand? What's your favorite brand?
I like Creative Grids is the best ruler that I like as that. I don't mind the Omni grids either. But I sometimes use rulers to cut, and for cutting, the Omni grid or the Creative Grids work okay. But I use other rulers that I just use for measuring.
And I would add to that list, although I don't own one, I just haven't, they're kind of expensive. Haven't broken down to buy one because I have rulers that do the same thing. Quilter Select. I'd like to get one and see because I know the grip on it. I have tried one once in store, and almost bought it, but then the price put me off. It was about $60 for it. So I thought, do I really need it or not? And the Stripology rulers, absolutely. I love the Stripology rulers. What brands can I live without? Do you have any brands you can live without? You don't use as many as I do.
No, I don't really have any brands that that I bought that I don't really use. There is one that I bought by accident that was a really thin ruler, and not this one, but a really thin plastic ruler that I can't use to cut with, and the markings on it isn't very good either.
So why'd you buy it?
I bought it because I thought it would be a good buy, but I bought it online, and then when I got it, I thought, this is a crappy ruler.
It's probably another point you take into consideration. If you're looking at rulers and you find one you're going, ooh, this is much cheaper than the Creative Grids or Omni Grid or any brand name one, beware. Read the description very carefully because it may not work with your rotary cutter.
Luckily, it wasn't one that was particularly expensive. I bought it in an order. I saw it on the line, and I thought, oh, okay, I can get this ruler.
Impulse buy.
But it's really, really thin, and I don't like it. The other thing is that if you do buy a ruler, you might want to compare the ruler, like if it's a different brand, compare it to a reliable ruler just to make sure the markings are the right size on it, because there are a possibility that you find a ruler where the markings aren't right.
That's a really good point.
And especially if it's an off-brand, the Creative Grids are usually are accurate from the ones that I've got. But if you buy an off-brand ruler or something, make sure that the markings on it are the correct size, because I have heard of people getting a ruler and they're cutting all kinds of stuff out, and then they find out that the ruler's not accurate.
So you want to check them. If it's not a name brand, like the ones that we've been talking about, you want to check the measurements on it. The other thing you want to check too is the markings on it. Will they rub off?
Yeah.
Because I've heard of that happening. It's never happened to any of the rulers that I own, but I only own Creative Grids and Omni Grid and that kind of thing. The markings are there. But there are some that basically on Creative Grids and Omni, I think they're actually etched into the plastic and then they put some kind of thing over it to darken it or whatever.
Yeah, the other thing I didn't really mark on is I do have a ruler upstairs, but I very rarely use it. And it's not really a ruler, it's just a guide for doing hems and stuff that you can iron on, right? but I thought I'd use it like crazy, and I don't use it.
I have one of those too. It's kind of made out of a kind of a cardboardy, papery, stiff thing,
Yeah, I
right?
have something it's made out of a plastic. It looks like plastic, but I think it's called mica or
Oh.
something, and it can be ironed on, right?
Mm.
But I find I just never use it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think that's it. Just went on a little longer than I thought it was. I didn't think we'd have that much to say about rulers, but I guess we did with it all. So I hope you found this helpful. And we're still looking for ideas for series and things. We've had a few others. Yes, we are talking about, I don't know when we're going to get to it. I have to wait on, to see what his mood is like, catch him in a weak moment for shirt making or whatever. But we're still open to all kinds of other suggestions. If you have them, send them to us, comment section, or send them directly via email, and we will definitely consider it. Okay, so I think that's it. Parting words?
No.
Pop-up sew day this Saturday, tomorrow. Yep, at the time of recording of this, the 14th of September, 2024. And Russ's pop-up sew day on the Sunday, September 15th. So lots happening this weekend. Hope to see many of you at both events. And in the meantime, have a great weekend. Have a great week. Have a great life. We'll see you later. Say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye.